we should be firing away. Yep, we're in 4K again, and this is hopefully going to be me taking stuff I've done before and transitioning it into an actual class where I actually show you stuff. Because I've talked about skill challenges before, but I haven't really shown people how to do them. And it's quite an involved process. You need a lot of time. So I'm going to hopefully have plenty of time to build a skill challenge after the presentation. So for those of you who have been joining me for these Dungeon Master preparation live streams, what I will say right now is get some food, some drink, get comfortable. There is a poll going up. You do not have to answer it straight away. Make sure that you have a pen and pencil to take notes. If you're a patron, you do not need to take notes because I'm going to put all of this up on Patreon for you, so you don't have to worry about taking notes if you don't want to. Okay? It might take me a little bit of time to get it there, but it will go there. So you don't have to worry about taking notes if you're a patron on Patreon. Okay. So slideshow first, open it up to questions, and then we build a skill challenge. And I've selected a specific skill challenge. It's quite a difficult one to build. So at the end of this presentation, we're going to build the Indiana Jones Boulder Trap. That's from the Raiders of the Lost Ark. You familiar with that one? I'm sure you are. Look, if you probably know what I'm talking about. So that's the one we're going to build as our exercise for today. Not the easiest thing to do, but I guess you're not here for easy, are you? You're here for what would be fun and what would be interesting and how to learn how to do it. So that's what we're going to do. Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Specifically, this is actually about skill challenges, and this is actually a Dungeon Master preparation tutorial that is lesson 7, and that is creating skill challenges. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the skill challenge, particularly from 4E, I can assure you right now that what I'm about to present is not a duplication of that. It is an evolution, because you really can't just use skill challenges as presented initially for Dungeons & Dragons 4E. You have to make adjustments. Otherwise, it's just no good to you whatsoever. So I'm going to go with I give you the updated version. Not only with this tutorial is it updated, what I've also done is I've taken anything that I've done in the past, I've consolidated it, and then I've tried to make it as simple as possible, because I did notice that some of my notes were a little bit hard to follow at times, even for myself. So I have significantly updated everything that I've done in the past. So the overview for today is why use skill challenges. So what is good for a skill challenge? What is bad for a skill challenge? Or what doesn't quite work? How to create a skill challenge. The player's actions in a skill challenge, very important. And then, of course, the skill challenge consequences. So what is the consequence of success and what is the consequence of failure? We need to determine that. And then some miscellaneous recommendations. And that sort of is the basics. I have taken it right down to the bare minimum so that it's easy for you to deal with. Now, the objectives is to explain how to create skill challenges for Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I don't care what version of the game it is. I mean, we're playing 5e, most of us, but it doesn't really matter, okay? You could port this over to any version of Dungeons & Dragons or another role-play game in many respects, but I will certainly refer a lot of my comments back to 5e. Demonstration, so we're going to actually build a skill challenge, and I can't allow the sort of the practical playthrough at this point, so I can't bring people into the live stream at this point, but we'll do that in the future. That's future programming, something to look forward to. Now, you'll find on D&D Beyond, the basic rules for Dungeons & Dragons 5e is now available. It is free. You can go and get it. I'll say right now that there's not an awful lot on this concept. The concept of the ability check and the skill check, which is a single dice roll and a very limited aspect of what we're going to discuss today, it does give you the rules for that. And, you know, if you're interested, go for it. Okay, why use skill challenges? I've found that there is a very specific reason to use a skill challenge And most of the time, it's really about the right time, because you don't want to use a skill challenge for everything. A skill challenge tells part of the adventure's story. That's the first thing you need to remember. And you're doing it in a cinematic manner, and it's usually about action. Okay? So a cinematic manner that's much broader. We're going broader than combat mechanics. We've already got something to deal with combat mechanics. We don't need to try and duplicate that with a skill challenge. We don't need to worry about using it in the form of casting a single spell or making a single dice roll. So if it involves combat, casting a single spell, or making a single dice roll, you don't want to use a skill challenge, because we're going for the cinematic. So skill challenges are good for action scenes. If you're doing like a large scale battle, say like Lord of the Rings, for that big battle at the end of the movie, or the last movie, that would be a good time to use a skill challenge, particularly if your players are actually controlling troops and involved in some way. The other thing is traps. Like, surprisingly, I know a lot of people hate traps, but traps actually work really well as a skill challenge. And that's one of the examples I will be presenting, certainly in the future, the near future. If the skill challenge doesn't have enough scenes or events to overcome, then it's better to not use the skill challenge. Otherwise, adjust the skill challenge so there's more scenes or events that occur. You need to have enough going on. Otherwise, it just boils down to 1 or 2 dice rolls and you're finished. Okay, so either adjust the skill challenge or don't bother using it. So what we're looking for is a stage, and we move from one stage to the next, or one scene from the next, or one event to the next. Something's going on, and then we have to respond. That's what the players are going to do. Skill challenges don't work well in, as I said, combat encounters, but particularly also puzzles don't work well with a skill challenge. Puzzles have their own set of criteria. Social interactions, I know a lot of people think that a social interaction would work well as a skill challenge. No, I don't believe it does. I think a conversation is actually a better way to do a social interaction, not a skill challenge. And then I know a few people want to do research exercises as a skill challenge. Again, I know it's been done by the designers in the past. I find them to be the worst ones. So I won't recommend that, and you'll never see me trying to build one of those here in these classes in the future. I will not do it. So how to create a skill challenge? There's a lot to think about when we say how to create a skill challenge. I'm going to say to you that you want to try to keep it simple, but you also got to focus on what's important. So design your skill challenges with a series of narrative events. That's the easiest way to understand it. Narrative events that are strung together in a line. It will be linear, and it's fine. It can be linear. It does not have to have branches. You're actually making your life incredibly difficult by having branches on a skill challenge. I wouldn't recommend doing that, okay? So it's perfectly fine to have a skill challenge that is a series of events that take place that the players have to deal with. They're essentially not just events. They could be obstacles that the player characters have to overcome. They can take many forms. What you need to do is define a clear goal for the whole skill challenge first. Then you want to define clear goals for each stage with a consequence for success and failure at each stage of that skill challenge. My advice to you is, if you can't involve everybody in the skill challenge, do not use it. Where possible, and I recommend you do this most of the time, use group checks, where everybody has to participate. Now, when I say group check, you may be able to resolve something without rolling a dice. Like, you may be able to get success without rolling dice. We'll go back to that. But group checks, much better idea. Otherwise, what tends to happen is you get just a handful of players who have a character with a really high skill modifier or ability modifier, and they dominate the entire skill challenge, and all they do is roll dice for every single thing because they have really good numbers. And if that's what we're dealing with, I wouldn't even bother making skill challenges. If that's what the players want, don't waste your time. It's a lot of work to do this. Don't have a long string to your skill challenge, okay? 3 or 4 group checks maximum, or 3 or 4 events or 3 or 4 obstacles. Don't put too many moving parts into them. I know in the past, if you look at 4E, they would talk about complexity and certain levels of complexity in a skill challenge, but what the designers did also say later on is that you should not make really long skill challenges. You should actually make skill challenges that are quite short, and you can string one skill challenge into another, but my recommendation and their recommendation was, after publishing 2 books on the topic, try to stick to 3 or 4 stages to your skill challenge, and that's it. Arrange different consequences for failing at a stage in the skill challenge. That's really important. This is where we actually get to do something else other than just, in part, the loss of hit points. We can do a lot more than that. And you also want a consequence for failing the entire skill challenge as well, right? So this might be the loss of hit points, yes. It could be you lose a hit dice. This could represent that you're actually getting fatigued rather than removing hit points directly. We decide that we can take away hit dice so that their ability to use short rests to recoup hit points later on is actually diminished. Okay, but it has no direct bearing on hit points. It's very handy as a tool when you're dealing with low-level characters. You can use the removal of spell slots. Now, that looks very different. You'll find that with a skill challenge, players are probably going to try and use spells anyway, so they're going to be using up their slots. Gaining a condition. The poison condition is often one of the most obvious, but there are others. Exhaustion. Like if the skill challenge is stretched over a period of time, and they might get tired and exhausted, then we can use the exhaustion mechanics here. And then some sort of story-related consequence. Sometimes we won't use any of that, and all it is a narrative story consequence that makes sense for that part of the skill challenge. Events or obstacles that could or will end a skill challenge. Anything that will end the skill challenge, because the players will put forward an action that would do so, that will end it, we must always place them at the end of the skill challenge. If there's anything that you put in here that would end the skill challenge part way through, and you've already got an end event at the end of your skill challenge, remove that stage. Okay, we only want one event that would actually end the entire thing. And that's probably the easiest way to deal with building your skill challenges in your games. I just need some water. Give me a second. Players' actions in a skill challenge. Very important, because you may be under the assumption that the only thing they're ever going to do is roll dice, and that's not true. So the players' actions in the skill challenge are going to be determined by you giving them the right prompts. Explain that players need to state the action for their character that they make. So you're giving them the narrative, what's going on, and they tell you what their character will do. Like, they let you know what their character wants to do. Don't let them just pick a skill to roll. Okay, you're breaking the narrative. Now, I wouldn't say that's wrong, but I think that's actually probably going to diminish the interest, because we don't really want just a collection of dice rolls. We actually want a lot more than that. Try to use different skills and abilities in a skill challenge. So if there's any way that you can use more than one ability or more than one skill in the skill challenge, great. There is a tendency sometimes, and it just seems to be the way if you're using an action scene, that athletics winds up being the most common one to be utilized, or dexterity saving throws, or something like that. Or even a strength check, or even a dex check or something like that. But you don't have to avoid the same skill in a sequence. Okay, if it makes sense for the story narrative to use a series of athletics checks, that's fine. That doesn't mean that's the only way to successfully complete that stage of the skill challenge, because I will explain. It's wise to allow a secondary skill check to gain advantage. Now, there will be conditions where it would be appropriate. You might be gaining advantage, they may be gaining disadvantage. There may be some bonuses or penalties to the main group check that apply. because this allows you to include a wider range of potential skills, but also it allows you to include the knowledge skills. Like knowledge might actually assist them in completing a task more efficiently. Skill challenges don't have to include an ability or skill check necessarily, as I've said before. But that is the design default. When you look at it, it's like, okay, that's what we do. But you can use saving throws and you can use attack rolls. They may all actually apply given the right circumstance. Or you might find that there's a situation where it's about the action they take and has no dice rolling at all. Like you could actually have a stage built where it's predetermined, or the action they decide to pick is actually going to be the thing that's important. Nothing to do with dice rolling. That doesn't mean you have eliminated the consequences of behavior. Now what you've done is you've put in a decision tree of some kind. That might be 2 decisions or 3 decisions, but essentially you've eliminated random aspects and it's down to coming up with the right decision or action. Now classes, races, any of the features from the races and classes might be you could apply those to a skill challenge. Let the players do that sort of thing. Spells, magic items might apply. Even just clever ideas. It may have nothing to do with any of that other stuff, and they just come up with a really clever idea. The smart use of mundane equipment can result in automatic success, or potentially replace a skill check for individuals, or add to a skill check. So maybe using that piece of equipment requires them to make a check with it to be successful, or using a tool for the individuals and possibly the group. So any of this can be revolving around the group check and the individual check. And I would separate and make sure you have both. Not all skill challenges will involve a group check or group outcome. Sometimes it won't work that way. Often you won't even necessarily need to have an individual consequence for every stage. Sometimes that will only apply for certain stages. Now be wary of players trying to get success for the whole group check with a single high skill modifier. Okay, I've said that sort of before. Again, I'm going to reiterate it. There is a predominant focus by players to think, if I've got the best numbers, I want to be able to make the check for everybody. Like, I want my success to affect everybody. So if I get a really good result, then the entire group should get advantage. No, as the dungeon master, you make the decision. Does it actually make sense that their result on their dice, if they're rolling dice and they get a high number, should it apply to every single person there in terms of whether they get advantage on a dice roll or whatever they're trying to achieve? Okay. So you got your skill challenge consequences. It's not a skill challenge until we actually have consequences. Like all things, challenges require consequences. Don't be married to the skill challenge being failed overall with a set number of failed checks, even if that is the usual method. Now, often in the past, they would say a simple skill challenge would consist of you have to get 4 successes before 2 failures. Sometimes that will work, and sometimes it won't. So avoid breaking the narrative of the action scene you have set up by using group success and failure if it actually does make sense. If it's possible for the group to break up into separate groups, or wind up being separated and be at different stages within the skill challenge, be left behind, then the group check won't work, will it? But if they're on, say, a sailing ship, then whatever happens to to one will happen to everybody. If you're on a ship in the middle of a storm, whatever happens to one is going to happen to everybody because the ship is at threat from the storm. But if you're in a situation where you are navigating through a collapsing building, then it is possible that you might find that they can be separated, and some of them may die in the process, or they'll get badly injured or something like that, or get left behind because they're not fast enough. If a player chooses to not to take part in the skill challenge, what you want to do with your skill challenge is make sure that everybody has to be involved. Okay? And if a player says, oh, no, I'm not going to take part in this skill challenge, you count them as an automatic failure for the individual check and automatic failure towards the group check. That doesn't mean a group check will be completely failed for everybody. It just means that when you count up the group check numbers, you only need to get half your group to be successful for a group check. But that would consider that you classify that as an automatic failure. Set a difficulty class or DC that makes sense for the character's action, not their character level. Do not focus on character level. So we have 5 is very easy, waste of your time. We've got 10, which is easy, probably again waste of your time to have those included. Then we have 15, which is medium, and then we have 20, which is hard. Very hard is 25, and near impossible is 30. So use anything from 15 upward, but nothing above 30 if you're going to be using any kind of difficulty class. And it doesn't matter what level they are, because we have a different dial to deal with the level of the character. Adjust the consequences of failure to reflect the party character level by using the trap damage severity by level table. It's in the Dungeon Master's Guide. It's on page 121. It will also give you, if you're dealing with a trap, or even anything that's sort of related to any kind of skill challenge, it kind of gives you sort of an idea of a benchmark for attack rolls, saving throws, and so forth as well. But what we want to do is we want to use that trap damage severity by level table. So you just pick the level that they are, and then you pick the thing that should be appropriate. I would advise you to use setback. Don't use the higher ones, because they pump out a lot more damage. At low level, it can be very, very painful. You could wind up with a lot of people on their face very quickly. Now, how do you determine if your skill challenge is too hard? Okay, so the easiest way to understand whether you've made your skill challenge too hard is you know the skill challenge is too hard if the character with the least amount of hit points, which is usually the wizard, would die if they failed every stage. So if, say, the wizard in the group who has the least number of hit points fails every stage of the skill challenge, use average damage when you're figuring this out, and they would die, not fall to 0 hit points and be unconscious, but die outright, then you know you've made the skill challenge way too hard. Okay? That's the easiest way to understand it. That doesn't guarantee that nobody won't perish during the process, but that's usually the best gauge of working it out. Miscellaneous recommendations. I have 3 recommendations for you when you're building your skill challenges to make life as easy for you as possible. And that is, first off, don't break the narrative of the scene. Okay, whatever narrative you present in your scene, which is part of the skill challenge, okay, don't let it be broken. And let the players come up with don't let them come up with a contrived rationale for why they might be able to apply a particular skill check, ability check, or a particular spell or class feature. If it's contrived and ridiculous and it doesn't seem to make sense, then don't use it. It doesn't apply, okay? Or if they do try to do it and you think it shouldn't work, then just have it fail and be done with it. If the skill challenge becomes a series of skill checks, then it's most likely going to be a very poor experience for you as a dungeon master and players, and you won't enjoy it, and you probably won't do it again. So as soon as you see your skill challenge turning into a series of skill checks, and that's all they ever do, and they are unable to do anything else, you know you need a bit more practice, or your players don't understand what's going on here. Yeah. You do not need to tell them that they are in the middle of a skill challenge. I know some people say, I just tell them that it's a skill challenge. Others don't like to do that. Frankly, I don't think it really matters. But if you tell them that this is a skill challenge and you need to make a dice roll at each stage, that's all they will do. Like, they just won't look at other options. Avoid focusing on the mathematics of the game, because that creates a lot more work for a dungeon master. And it makes it much harder for player characters to succeed when they have a smart idea. Smart ideas should be trumping the stage of a skill challenge. Like, if they come up with a really clever idea, that should be working. And if it's so smart that you think it shouldn't require any kind of random element, that'll eliminate that random element, because the clever idea always wins over. I'm not saying the fun idea, okay, or the cute idea, or the creative idea. If creative might be useful, it's the smart idea that seems to make sense for the scene you are dealing with at that time. That should trump everything. That pretty much gives you everything you're going to need with regard to skill challenges, but with all things, you still need to practice and actually build them and make them. Otherwise, like anything, without practice and trial, you won't know if it's going to work for you or not. I'm going to say right now, thank you to my patrons who have been really supportive of me doing these classes, and for everybody who's been part of my live streams and watching the replays and watching my other videos. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Please let me know if you use skill challenges in your games, would like to use skill challenges in your games, if you've used them in the past, how you build them. I'd very much like to know. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I'm not gone. We're going to go to chat. I'm going to go over here for now, and we'll go through the chat. I want to be pretty quick because we have a skill challenge to build today. Quite serious. We are going to build the Indiana Jones skill challenge. I feel like it's not very generic, absolutely. But because it's so complicated, it will give you a really good idea or grasp of how you apply them into your game and how you can build them yourself. So I'll go through the chat very quickly. And then we're going to go to my Google Doc page, and we're going to build it. And we should be able to get it done in this one sitting. For those of you who are like, will we actually get it all done, Fred? I'm pretty sure we will. I did do some additional prep, and because I've actually put this together, I actually built one of these with Wally DM on his channel. We made a video about it. This is updated from that one. Let's have a look at the poll really quickly. Now, if you want to support and make sure I keep doing these sort of things, the best way to support me is by signing up to Patreon. All of the things we make here in these classes, everything, all of my notes on my videos, they all go to Patreon. Some of the stuff that is things I want you to be able to play with will be a Word document that you can edit very easily. The things that I think you probably won't be editing or using, but it's just information, then or a resource, then it will be a PDF. Okay, so you'll find that on Patreon. The other way is super chats and super stickers. I would prefer super chat because then you can ask me a question and I can respond to it. And I have decided that if somebody does that, then what I will do is I will shift to the face cam and I will answer your question, and I'll make sure I press the record button and then turn it into a short video that will go up onto the channel. And since it'll be in 4K, it should look pretty good. Okay, so let's have a look at our question. Have you used or created skill challenges for Dungeons and Dragons 5e game? So 55% have said yes. So that's it. I'm quite surprised. Interesting. No, 27%. Not sure. Yeah, I kind of figured that might be occur. Some people will think, I'm not sure if it was a skill challenge or not. I don't really understand. I get it. All good. 11 people have voted, and 9% it's only for D&D 4e, which is fine, because a lot of my skill challenges were made while I was playing Dungeons and Dragons 4e or DMing it. Hi Jack, how's it going? Yes, Raiders of the Lost Ark is a great film. Hello Fendar. Fendar is a Patreon. How's it going? Love the movie. TGI Jar, how's it going? Finally got to make a stream. Yes, you did. Well done. You did it, TGI. Jeevis, how's it going? And is it Shinu81? Hello, how's it going, Shinu81? Brian, hello, Brian. I've been really looking forward to this topic. I'm glad you have. I need to be very quick because, remember, I've got to build it today. Robert Moore, hello, Robert. If I read out somebody's name and I forget that you are a patron, I apologize. Okay, I know Fendar in here is. Thumbs up. Yes, I appreciate a thumbs up. Hello, Jasper. How's it going, Jasper? And then Byron Lee's here. Hello. Skill challenges with a DC higher than 20 seem like an unfair thing to do in a game. It doesn't. It's not really about unfair. Like, it's an experience. Like, it's all right to put them in. It's perfectly. If it makes sense that it be higher than a 20, right, or a 20, then make it a 20. Because you're dialing it with something else. What you're using is you're using damage severity. Okay? You're using that table. That actually is your dial. It's as simple as that. I prefer to go easy with my players to keep it fun. So every skill challenge I've ever run, nobody's actually died. I mean, they might have got swallowed by the giant worm. But thank you, Agile Monk. Love and blessings to you, Fred. Thank you for the super sticker. I do appreciate it. You should have thrown out like a super chat and asked me a question, dude. But that's all right. Let's move on to the actual main event, which is we actually want to build something. So I need to first make sure that I turn on my phone. Turn on my phone. Phone is charging up now. I will flick over to wrong screen. I will flick over to where I need to be going, which is my screen capture. I need to make sure I hit the record button, because this is one of the things I keep forgetting to do is hit the record button. Because I will try to turn it into a very specific video where you can just watch what we do. Like that's the intention. And whoever this person is trying to call me, go away, man. I turn my phone on to disable all the time, and I still have idiots who there's no caller ID on them, so it's probably trying to sell me something, right? That's always the thing you want to do is you want to, I want to talk to you because you want to sell me something. Like, go away. So anyway, where are we? Let's go there. AJ was live streaming today too, by the way, for anybody who was interested. I love it when he has a specific title and he will talk to that topic only. I was actually talking with him about live streaming, and I really feel like talking to a specific topic during a live stream works much better. And by the way, we're doing world building tomorrow. Now, can I see this? Blah 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 blah. No, that's not what we want. We want Fred. Where am I? Am I not live? Have I been lost? I'm going to have to get rid of these. This isn't going to work. My eyes aren't that bad. Well, let's hope they aren't. Anyway, so notebooks out, people. Because, there he is. There he is. There it is. Okay. Move that into position so I can actually see what's going on. Apparently there's an ad that I have to watch. Oh no, I've been attacked by bots. Let's deal with the bot first before I do anything else, because otherwise you're going to have to deal with that nonsense. So let's eliminate the bot and then we'll get to work. Reporting. You are unwanted. Destroy. Gone. And I do it again. Unwanted. Report you. Don't like you. YouTube has really got to get their act together with regard to that sort of thing. Reporting it. Okay. You hear me? Okay. Here is the new PC and camera waiting Fred. Mr. 4K now. Look, you guys have had to put up with so much horrible live streaming over the past. I'm so glad that I can finally do this. Anyway, let's go into what we really want, which is transition to here. Go there, press record, start recording. Okay, and we will go over to my page, and let's pull up the... Yep, so I've already kind of laid out most of what I want to do today, for those of you who are kind of curious. What's that, Robert Moore? New monster type, the one that finds you anywhere and trying to sell you an extended warranty on your car. Yeah, that's probably it. All right. So now that we've got that sorted out, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build probably one of the more complicated movie traps there have ever been. I'm talking about Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that very first scene when he goes into the temple or the tomb or the cave, and there's a statue there, right? He removes the gold statue, activates the trap, and the place just starts going bananas, and he has to get out of there really quickly. So we have a driving force, we have a ticking clock. Ticking clocks with traps are great, but also too, the type of trap and the ticking clock that's taking place is not going to kill him instantly, or not necessarily. In the movie, it is possible to die instantly, but we're not going to do that, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to slowly reduce them. So I'm going to go with, let's get rid of this aspect of it for now. We have the name of the main threat or event. So I have kind of put that at the top already. We've got a description of the action scene, which I'll have to type in a second. We're going to have scenarios. So each scenario is, so scenario 1, what is happening? That's what we as the Dungeon Master have to write down. The next thing is individual skills. Like, are there things they can do that would be related to a skill that we can sort of foresee? Write that down. I've done most of the work for you today. I've already kind of got most of that laid out for individual skill checks or ability checks that would relate to a particular action with a DC. I've done most of the work for all of this for you, okay? Because I've done it before. And the other thing is we have to have alternative solutions. So every scene or scenario, there may be things that they can do that you can foresee that you can write in and add so that it reminds you. Then we need to have the consequence of the group check, if there is a group check involved, or if it makes sense that there be that element to it. Not all skill challenges will look like that, but in any case, no matter what, even if they divert and separate during this particular skill challenge, everybody has to participate. If they don't, they die, okay? Staying and doing nothing is a bad idea. We also have consequences for individuals. So what would happen in each scene that would reduce resources or upset the balance in some way? And we're going to put that in. And I've got a lot of that already spelled out for you, but I'm going to give you that information as we go. Now you'll see I have laid out, I said 3 or 4 scenarios. In this case, because this is probably one of the more difficult skill challenges that I can possibly give you. And I apologize right now that it is so difficult, but I thought I would give you the hardest one and the one that would have your brain tick the most. This is the one to do it with. So that's why I've picked it. Okay. So we're going to have to add an extra scene to this, unfortunately, because I was looking at the things I wanted to put in here and I realized I needed to have 5 stages. So I'm going to copy here. So this is me, this is Fred breaking his own guidelines. Like everything, guidelines are made to be broken. Okay, it's all right. You're allowed to break guidelines. Okay. So my background has probably just gone wiggle, 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 and we put 5. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to type in our description of the action scene. That'll be our first stage. That's the first thing we want to do. And then each scenario, I'm going to write in the descriptor. Okay, and then you guys will be able to see what's going on. And I'm going to give you, I'm going to call you out and say, I want you to give me alternative solutions or what sort of skill or what they could do in that situation, what would apply. If you are unsure, it's all right to say nothing and let me just do all the work, okay? Because I understand where you're coming from with this one. Okay, so our first thing that we need to type in here is the characters have entered a tomb or cave, looking for a oops, we've gone big. Cave, looking for a lost artifact. So let's make it an artifact, because essentially in the Indiana Jones movie it is an artifact, right? The gold statue. We can make that in brackets. It could be anything from a gold statue or a an owl with gem eyes. Owl statue with gem eyes. Okay, it might be something else. It doesn't really matter. So that's our first thing. Now, what is actually going to set off the trap is the pressure plate. So what we'll do is we're going to stipulate what's going to actually move things forward from here. So I'm going to type in when the characters remove the statue from the platform. Did I put it in right? Platform. The pressure plate, activates. You're all very quiet there. Let me know you're still alive. Okay. So what happens when it activates? Activates a trap. Okay, so the tomb or cave starts to collapse and close up. That's what we're sort of putting forward. Yep, that's where we're going with this. Okay. Hopefully everybody is still with me. So that is our basic descriptor for our action scene. Then we need to put in and place in each scenario, each scene, what's going on. So we'll do that. What's that? Fred, just waiting for the time to jump in. Don't fret, Fred. Good. I just wanted to make sure that you're still alive. Okay, good. Okay, so we haven't finished you off just yet. So scenario 1. What we need to do is we need to highlight what's taking place. The room 1, we'll put it down as room 1. Room 1 is collapsing, and the ceiling is falling with debris hitting, or debris potentially hitting the characters. Oops, did I do it wrong? Characters, yep. Hitting characters. Okay, so ceiling is falling, it's collapsing, it's coming down. What do we do here? We need to also highlight there's some other factors. Now, when they were coming in, they probably got past the floor pressure plates easy enough, but now they have to actually navigate these, and they're going to have to they're going to have to do it quite quickly, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to mark down here the characters must leave the room within, and we're going to give them a time limit within, let's say, I'm thinking in terms of how long it took them to get through that room, 12 seconds. Or do I want to make it 12 seconds, or I want to give them a bit more time? I kind of potentially want to give them a bit more time. So we're going to make that, yeah, we're going to make that 20 seconds. 20, 12 to 6, 18 seconds. Or 3 rounds. Okay, so, what's that, Agile Monk? This is a horrible monster trying to sell you car. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, won't happen. I won't be doing that. Must. Let's do that. Okay. Something that I have missed here, and you probably won't know why I'm putting this in now. So, the characters must navigate across a room with pressure plates connected to poisoned wool darts that shoot out. I think that's something like, is it supposed to be something like that? Pretty much. Poisoned. Okay. Okay, so the characters must navigate across a room with pressure plates connected to poison darts. Poison darts. That. Okay. Sorry. That shoot out from the wall. Okay. Okay, so I want you to start thinking about how we're going to approach this. So I want your brains to start ticking the brain, like, what can I be using here? Before I move on to the next narrative, which I'm going to do all the narratives in advance so you kind of have time to ruminate, I'm going to add in a thing here. One of the things that is probably going to crop up is that people are going to want to help somebody else in any given situation. And I don't want to discourage that kind of play, because actually it's really good when they do that sort of thing. So we're going to add in an extra element here at the very top so that we don't forget it, okay? And that is the ability to aid or assist somebody else. Special note. And I will put in, I'll do that in a second. Special note, here we go. So how can somebody assist somebody? So any character that succeeds on a stage or room of the skill challenge can attempt to help another character through that room if they are in the same room. So that means that we can now have players assisting each other. Okay? That is probably going to crop up. You're going to find yourself in a situation where at some point somebody's going to want to assist. So what do they get? Apply advantage to dice roll, to D20 dice rolls when a character has help. Okay, what do you say? Sorry, what's that, Agile? Some humour. No, add in some humour by all means, because there's a lot of stuff, information I'm typing up, and it's wordy. And you'll look, to be fair, don't get thrown off by the fact that I'm doing all this stuff. This is one of the hardest skill challenges we could do. Like, there's a lot, so we've got to make sure we get it right. Hear about the new restaurant called Karma? Yes, there's no menu. You get what you deserve. Nice. Very good. Very good. So let's just check our special note. Bold. I'm tempted to underline, but I won't for now. Skills. Yes, athletics to run past the darts. So that's our first room. So that's exactly what I had put down. I was waiting for somebody to say something. So I'm going to put this into here. It's not the only one, but yes, you're right, Fender. Absolutely. So, a character, can run. Now, I believe we're dealing with athletics in this case. It's going to run over the pressure plates. And past the flying darts. With an athletics check of DC. I've set it very high. It should be difficult. Don't freak out. Remember, damage by severity is what we're looking at. Damage by severity is how we gauge things. Okay, we've got to have some sort of consequences. Darts. Okay, so that's that. We've got that there. So that's our first one, but that's not the only thing that we can use. There would be another way that we could deal with this, right? We could actually apply something else other than an athletics check. So have a think about that. If you can come up with some alternative solutions, I will type them into the first room section while I'm doing the other stuff. So yeah, start thinking about it. You know what the scene is. Room 1 is collapsing. The ceiling is falling with debris potentially hitting the characters. We'll deal with how much damage that does and what that looks like. Don't you worry. The characters must leave the room within 18 seconds or 3 rounds. The characters must navigate across the room with pressure plates connected to poison darts that shoot out from the wall. That's what we're dealing with. So, now that you know, start thinking of how you might make that look. We've got one thing there. What else could we use? Now, while you're rummaging through your mind and trying to come up with some ideas for that, I'm going to make sure my special note is correct. There is another way that we can assist somebody. And so I'm going to put this in here because now, did I make a note of that in my scrappy bits of paper, or did I need to put it somewhere else? No. So we're all good. So what I'm going to do here, I was going to add in another element, and that is if a character, falls unconscious. Now, special help note. Yeah, we'll do that. Falls unconscious or dies. It could happen. Another character can carry the fallen character through the temple, the tomb traps, with disadvantage. Advantage on all D20 dice rolls. So you were wondering, like, what happens if things get really bad and somebody goes down? So we're applying this as a way of dealing with that, okay? Because it may come up. So we need to have some way of adjudicating that. Otherwise, we're going to have to make a decision later on. What's that, Fender? As an alternative solution, if they find the wall has holes, maybe if they find a way to clog or block the dart holes, they would negate these. Yes, good. Well done. So, this requires you to put in a condition where they need to do this before the trap activates. If the characters clog or block all the dart holes before the trap activates, they do not have to negotiate the room's pressure plates. Okay, so that's one condition that we could use. Your fender is doing very well. I'm impressed. There are other things as well, but I'll come up with them in a second. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got all of the preemptive. Now, there's something I need to add here. Consequences of a group check. Now, one of the problems with this particular situation is that just because something happens to one character doesn't mean it's going to happen to every character. And it's the one time where I'm going to say that you probably don't want to use a group check. Okay, so we're going to eliminate the group check. So that actually makes life a little bit easier for you. There is an ultimate outcome, of course, and certainly the group will have to figure that out, but we're going to eliminate this part. Because it is possible for individual characters to be separated or fall behind, there is no group checks to make unless the dungeon master states otherwise. Right, so we're going to cut. There is no. There are no. Okay. So Agile Monk, what do you got here? What is a witch's favourite subject in school? Spelling. Yeah, exactly. Think about some spells that you could apply to this situation. Like, that's what I would suggest to you, is like, is there a spell that you could apply in this situation? So I'm going to take this bit here, and I'm going to copy it, and then rather than taking it out of taking that section out, I'm going to just adjust it and add this in, so it's following the format that we've laid out for ourselves. Paste. There we go. It's that one. Group. That's group, and then we'll do this one as here. This does do that one there as well. Nice and quick. Copy and paste. We don't have to do too much work then. Okay. The last one is a bit different, and I'll explain. The party may have to rescue or retrieve lost members trapped in the tomb. If they don't escape before the boulder closes the entrance, because that's what's going to happen at the end. The boulder, come on Fred, get it right. Okay, that's the only thing we need to sort of add at the end, because it's not like if you get trapped in this tomb, you're not necessarily going to die, but you would be trapped, and then you've got to find some way of getting them out. And there is obviously a way to make that work. Okay, so we're all right. I'm going to go back, and since Fender has done a pretty good job of giving us our athletics check, I'm going to give you an example of how you would apply an acrobatics check. Danny Dakota 27. I think I got that right. Is it Danny Darko 27? I was literally just thinking about the subject an hour ago. Great timing. Well, by the end of this, we should have a full-blown skill challenge. So let's add in another action that the players can make. Because there's multiple actions and it's going to get really confusing for you, I think maybe I should actually add in numbers here for each section, just so that it's easier for you to negotiate. So let's just put a number in here. Okay, and maybe I'll underline that section here as well to make it easier to see it. Okay, so another thing we could do, the characters can attempt to step quickly around the floor. Pressure. Did I get it right? No, I think I got it wrong. Pressure plates without activating the darts. Wall darts. Activating the wall darts. Activating the wall darts. I think that's it. Darts by making a, now where was the DC? I set it as a acrobatics check of DC, and I've set it at 20. Now you'll be a bit like, Fred, that's all like really hard. Like, calm down, people, because we got alternative solutions. And we already have an alternative solution, but there are alternative solutions we can apply here as well that aren't necessarily about that. So that's just one aspect of that, okay? So with the alternative solutions, we're going to take Fendar's idea. We're going to put a number beside it because we're going to have multiples there as well. Again, as I have said before, this is one of the more complicated traps you could put in. So therefore, it's always going to have a lot more going on. Okay, right. So next, let us get in our narratives. I'll come back to this. I've given you one idea. So we've used an acrobatics check. We've used an athletics check for the first room. Okay, I've explained what it is. Collapsing ceiling, potential debris. Got to get across the room with the pressure plates. Otherwise, going to get hit. Going to get hit by poison darts, or going to get hit by falling debris. Like, we've got to deal with all that sort of stuff. So we're going to go to the next stage here. And I believe what I'll do is room 2. Room 2. Room 2 has a large open pit that needs to be crossed quickly. Okay, got to do that. Now, why does it need to be crossed quickly? Because if you watch the movie, there's a couple of things going on here. Jean, how's it going? Are you writing this in Chrome? I'm in Chrome. Yeah, this is actually in Google Docs. So I use Google Docs, so if I'm in Chrome and you can't see it, I apologize. But it's the thing that I use the most. Frankly, I just find it better. So we need to stipulate a few conditions for this. The pit trap is 15 feet. Now you're probably thinking, yeah, but it's not really a pit trap if you can see it. Yeah, it is. It's just a trap you can see. Okay, don't worry about that. But the pit trap is 15 feet across. and its depth is determined, sorry, by the Dungeon Master. Now the reason I'm saying determined by the Dungeon Master is there are a couple of different ways you can do this. Okay, I recommend setting a super do Google Docs. Neat, yeah. So basically it means that I can drop this over on Patreon and you guys can just edit out anything you think is garbage. And its depth is determined by Dungeon Master. There's another criteria we need to put in here. So what I'm going to suggest in terms of the fall for this is I'm going to suggest make the pit bottomless. Don't freak out, we've got a solution for bottomless or 10 feet deep with spikes at the bottom. Whoops, sorry. Now, that's that bit. There is a reason why we have to get through this room quickly. Now, in the movie, what is actually happening is that there are stone doors closing. Okay, stone doors are closing, descending actually, at each end of the rectangular room. Okay, there's only two entrances, stone doors. So what did I write down? Stone doors are descending at each end of the rectangular room over a period of 30 seconds. That gives them 5 rounds. That's tough to sort of deal with, but that's right. Okay, so that's what our scene 2 area is. Okay, that means we need individual skills, alternative solutions, consequences for the individual if they don't. Now, that's a big factor I'm aware of, but trust me, we're going to make it so that it isn't you fall to your death. Like, there's another way of dealing with that. Okay? But we need to highlight the fact that if you don't succeed and get this sorted out, you get trapped. Like, that's what we're going to be dealing with here. So that's our room 2. Let's deal with the narrative for room 3. I just want to lay everything out for you so you can sort of see how it looks, okay? So room 3. And we'll come back, and this is where we put in, like, how do we deal with things? Like, so start thinking about, well, how would you deal with, what would you say about a way of navigating the pit trap? Come on, you can do this, it's easy. Some easy solutions here, people. Okay, so this is room 3. 3 has a... room 3 is dark with a light beam trigger that activates a spike wall trap. Okay. The characters have to navigate this room quickly as now, what was it? Quickly as the roof is starting to fall apart, to collapse. Roof is starting to collapse, there is another factor too that's going on here. So we Where were we? Sheena, 81. A jump over pit trap. Acrobatics. It's actually an athletics check, but good try. We can still use that. So we're going to go back to that since you've mentioned it. Let's have it, because there's like, what you want to do is you want to have a couple of different options. Somebody wants to do a jump athletics check, but you want us to do an acrobatics check. So what we'll do is we'll go back here. Did I get this all down before I move on and go back to there? The characters have to navigate this room quickly as the roof is starting to collapse. There's another factor too. I almost missed that. Where is it? Yes, there it is. Okay. A ticking clock has started and will close this room in. Now we want to give them a little bit of time here, but not too much time. So we're going to give them we'll close from in 12 seconds or 2 rounds. So this is actually going to activate the next room, okay, rather than being a tripwire. Maybe maybe spot a vine to grab on to swing across, so perception or investigation. So I'm going to put this here as a note under room 3, and I'm going to go back to Shina's suggestion, okay? So we're going to just go there, and I'm going to put down here characters look for a vine to use and swing over the pit with a perception or investigation check. I want to put question mark for now. I'm going to put that down. I'll mark it because we've done it. That's Fender, you got your idea. So, Sean, what's this? Thought just saving throw to run through the pit, through a pit once the doors start closing. Well, you can't run through the pit with a saving throw because you would fall into it. But you can use a saving throw in some way to, for that. So let's just mark that down as potentially here, alternatives. Actually, would you want alternatives? No, it's not really under alternatives. It's dice rolling, so it's really not that. So saving throw. I'll come back to that. Don't worry. Okay, so let's put a bold there and underline. I think I've got that sorted. So let's go back to what Shina was saying, and that is with the acrobatics. Yeah, it was the pit. So we were dealing with the. Oh, that's the vine. It's the wrong place. This is something else. Take these, cut them, and we go over here and we put them over here under the pit trap. My mistake. Bit of a balls up on my side, but we're getting there. So we'll put that in. We will underline it since we've started working there. Okay. You know what they say about cliffhangers? Yes, exactly. They say that cliffhangers have you hanging. So where were we? I think that got that section there done mostly. So we put that stuff in there. We'll come back to it. Joys of playing Bard and stacking saving throws. Can be. So we've got scenario 3. We've got that one done. We're going to get rid of that number there for now. we're going to go down to scene 4. I want to make sure I get all of the different narratives set up for you so that you've got a better idea of what's going on here. So, scene 4. Okay. Room 4 has a wall, of cobwebs covered in large, not giant, large poisonous, poisonous spiders to get past. Now you're going to be thinking about this hopefully. How do you get past a big wall of webs covered in poisonous spiders to get past? How would you deal with a wall of webs? Now, what's worse is we've got to force them to move on. They can't stay here. The problem with room 3 is it's not obvious that there is a ticking clock. So if they decide to sort of stay put, we're in trouble. But our trigger to help force them to continue moving is saying that the roof is starting to collapse. Otherwise, they might be tempted to stay put and then fail the whole thing. That's why we have to use that as a descriptor. Now, with room 4, cobwebs covered in large poison spiders to get past. A boulder activates and rolls on rails down to the character's floor level and threatens to crush them to death. So they have to move forward. Okay, if they stay put, they will die. So they have to go through those webs, and they have to figure out how to do that fairly quickly. Now, the time frame that we're going to give to this, what we want to do, I'm tempting to say, I want to give them a little bit more time, because the boulder's not really going that fast, and I'm thinking in terms of that scene. So we're going to give them the boulder reaches the webbed wall in 18 seconds or 3 rounds. Now I've been quite tight with all of this, okay? So I'm really pushing our group through this as hard as we can. You'll be seeing I'm spending a lot of time on the narratives. We absolutely must get that nailed down. Charm the spiders to do someone's bidding. Right, I'm going to take that right now. That's good. You've got the right idea. So, if you have the ability to communicate with small animals, like that would be perfect. Is it a forest gnome that can speak with small animals, can convince the spiders not to bite the character as they run through. Awesome, well done. But that's not the only thing, because you were actually trying to extend that a little bit too. So we need to add that in. But that's actually very, very good, Jean. Not to bite. Can speak with animals. That can speak with animals, or charm animals. Okay. Well done. Druid, I don't know if Bard counts for summoning animals, but it's up to you. Or to spin non-sticky webs to pull the webs back. Yeah, potentially. So another thing I want you to think, fire people. There are some solutions for dealing with a web that includes fire. So start thinking about the alternatives of that. It may not be an individual skill check as such. We may be looking here at more individual stuff, which is fine. Okay. So I am going to... I feel like the solutions and ideas that you could utilize for what they would do in scenario 4 are probably going to be pretty good for you to start with. I'm going to come back and do scenario 5, but like all of these things, for 2 hours I can't sit here. I have to take a break. If I don't take a break, what will happen is I will get go into, I need to I'll do the dance, the toilet dance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this bot from taking over again. And I'm going to let you guys think about it. Write down a few ideas. How would you deal with a spider web? You have to go through it or get past it in some way. How can you circumvent it? How can you deal with it that we can add into here? I'm going to leave the scene up here so you can see it. If I put it up too high, I may have put it up too high. I'll roll it down a little bit. Okay, start thinking of some ideas. You're probably not going to be persuading or intimidating spiders. Okay, so I'm not gone, but I need to do my business. 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Okay, all right, I'm back. Sorry about ripping off on like that, but I have to empty the lizard. But we're now back to work. So let's have a look and see if anybody came up with some interesting ideas. Recent survey revealed that 6 out of 7 dwarves aren't happy. Should help while he's going. Number 2. Okay, Hawk, what do you got here? Off topic. Advice from experience. I love my DM and I love the world, but my character feels so disconnected without a goal. Fighting in a heavy RPG group. Can give more information. Look, you this is the sort of thing you should have discussed at session 0. Like, those are the discussions you have right then and there. My suggestion to you is, and your ideas here are starting to come through. I can see that. So here's what I'm going to suggest to you. Go talk to your dungeon master and just tell them what you're telling me. Like, that's the discussion you need to have. There's no point telling me. You have to have that with the dungeon master, and so that you can come up with something that's going to work for the both of you. Like, that's how it is. Like, that's how it is. There's no other way to get around that. I'm not going to suggest you go to a different group, RJ Hawks. I'm going to suggest you just go talk to your dungeon master. This is half the problem, is people keep going and asking strangers on the internet. This is a situation where you have to go and ask them. So alternative solutions for dealing with a cobweb. Hawk has actually offered exactly what I was hoping somebody would say. So we're going to put one of these here. So characters can attempt to cut all the webs away. Now, remember, just because you're cutting the webs away doesn't necessarily mean that you ain't going to wind up with spiders all over you. Okay? It's a way with a large slashing weapon like a sword with no so no attack roll is required. But they get advantage on sleight of hand. Get advantage on any dice, D20 dice roll to get past this obstacle. Because you have to get up close with your weapon to do this, so it's not like you aren't at risk, but you get advantage on whatever other dice roll you might use. So it actually makes sense. It's a good idea. Now, you've said torch. Like a torch would take a little while to burn it away, okay? So we can add that in. So a character can attempt to cut away webs with a large slashing weapon like a sword. Right, or burn and part webs with a flaming torch. Okay, but they get advantage on a DC. So that's what we're looking for there. Does that make sense? Now, you also mentioned also a lot of cantrips can burn webs, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. That's essentially a dice roll without a dice roll, but this is where our alternatives come in. So characters that can cast spells that do fire damage, like firebolt, burning hands, flaming sphere. Oh, come on, get it together. Flaming sphere and fireball. Can automatically will succeed on this on clearing the webs. Okay. Okay. So, what do you got here, Hawk? It's Hawk. It's just not a question I can answer in the middle of trying to do DM prep on skill challenges. That in itself is a huge task, and we've got quite a lot to complete, and I've got less than half an hour. So again, I will say there's really nothing that I can do to solve your problem right now. Not in the middle of a live stream. Okay. So, room 3 is reasonably simple. Thank God for that. Freeze and shatter. That's a good point. Freeze and shatter. Freezing spells or shatter can also clear the web wall. Okay, well done. Nicely done. Good, good, good. You did very well. That's excellent. We will put that as an underline. I need to get this bit here done so we know what all of our narratives are. Okay, the narratives are the important thing. The other things you can add in. I'm also going to, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do the narratives, and then I'm going to do the failure and success, so that you actually have those. Okay, so first, last thing. Okay, this is escaping. Yep. Psionics, something like that. I suppose, yeah, you're talking about force damage. Look, we could add a lot of other things there. Spells, okay, freezing spells. Oh, shit. Okay, but those, you get the idea. Like, breaking the web shouldn't be that difficult. Okay, escaping the tomb and escaping the tomb requires, okay, right, so escaping the tomb, we're going to just put that down, full stop. The murder boulder, that's really what it is. Boulder is rolling toward the entrance to block it off. Block it off. Okay. There is space to the side of the cave chamber to step out of the way. Okay. Okay, so I think that we got that there. So that's what we got here. So the idea is that you have to outrun, okay? Characters need to outrun. Outrun the boulder before it traps them in the cavern or tomb. That is our descriptor, okay? Yeah, each room is a different trial. So the fifth scenario is actually the same room, but I've split it up, and I mean, essentially you could say it's another cave a little bit further on from the webs, but it's actually very close. What I'm doing is I'm trying to separate the spider webs and the boulder slamming in there. So that's kind of part of what's going on here. Okay, that's the gist of what we're doing here. So now that we've got all of that, let's start putting in some of the consequences for ballsing this all up, because that's where you're probably wondering, like, what are the failure conditions for each step? Yep. So we're dealing with 5 locations. I would say 4 is better, but 5 for this particular trap since it's so complicated. Right, so next, where was I in my little list of failure conditions? Okay, so first one is poison darts and collapsing ceiling. If characters stay still and don't cross the room's pressure plates, they are hit by falling debris. Debris, come on. Debris for setback damage, setback bludgeoning damage. Bludgeoning damage. Whoops, bludgeoning. I've missed the G. Bludgeoning damage. Setback is the least amount of damage you would do with a trap, right? It's the stupidest thing you could do as an individual is to stay still. Transitions can be completely unique, so no rhyme or reason really just to put them together, but transitions are probably rests or play breaks. So this is on a ticking time, so you have to get things done under a certain amount of time, okay? Otherwise it's going to be problematic. So we put this, there is no rest and break with this particular one. It all happens very, very quickly. We've put in timers, okay? The timer's already at the top. So that's one of our conditions of failure. We also have to have a condition of failure if they balls up getting across the room, like getting across the pressure plates, okay? Failing to get across the pressure plates successfully results in the character what is it? I think it is the character taking 1 piercing damage and the rest is poison damage. Setback only. Okay. Whoops. So here we go. Failing to get across the pressure plate successfully results in the characters taking 1 piercing damage, and the rest is poison damage plus the poisoned condition. Having the poison condition is bad. Okay. For those of you who are unaware, poison condition not a great thing to have. Okay. So consequences. Success for a character is character results in getting to the next room uninjured. Okay, Very simple. I am going to just highlight this. And oh god, here we go again. I do not like it when it does this, but it does. Let's do that. Wastes a lot of my time when I should be doing other things. Unwanted commercial content. Let's do that. Okay. So I mean, you can, but I'm not going to discuss that sort of stuff. I'm not going to. I'm just giving them how I would do it. How you would do it is up to you. This document can be adjusted by anybody. Okay, I'm just giving you here is a way of doing it and breaking it all down. So next one. So that's the consequences for room 1, which is the collapsing ceiling and the plates or pressure plates on the floor. We need the consequences for failing room 2, which has the large open pit that needs to be crossed, and you've got the closing doors, like the descending, so that you can get trapped in here. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with here. So failure for this one. Characters that fall into the pit trap. That's one aspect of failure that we'll deal with. Pit trap. Grab, hold. So let's have them grab hold. Somebody was talking about that before. Grab hold of vines to pull themselves up. Pull themselves up so they can leave the room before the doors shut, but they get the wind knocked out of them and lose 1 hit dice. You might have remembered I mentioned this before. How am I managed to do that? Dice, the other one. Hit dice. Okay, so that is a consequence. How to escape. So let's go here, and we will make that a number. That is just dealing with that aspect of it. Okay, so that's falling in up to there. They can, okay, pull themselves up, up. So it's supposed to be so they can leave. Okay, so here's another thing. We could have them fall in the pit. Okay. Kimura, such an amazing community and great advice. Much love, everybody. Keep gaming. Thank you very much. You're heading out? No problems. I look, it's cool. I do appreciate it, Kimura. I think I got your name right. I'm not too sure. So what if they fall in the pit? Okay. Characters that fall in the pit take falling damage with for now the fall I had set, I believe, is a 10-foot drop, so that doesn't actually cause that much damage if we just make a 10-foot pit with spikes. And I know the spikes and so forth, but what we're going to do is we're just going to have the spikes and the fall cause a setback worth of damage. Characters that fall in the pit take falling damage worth a setback, which is different for every character level. Setback. Okay. Characters that fall in the pit take falling damage worth falling damage worth falling setback damage. So damage worth a setback, which is that. Okay. They must also get out of the pit quickly, which can be achieved with help. No roll required. Not with that depth of the pit. Why would you have a dice roll? It would make no sense. Doesn't matter. You make the spikes are as tall and as spiky as you need them to be. We're only dealing with a setback. We're not trying to kill them. Now, there is another failure for this room that we need to consider. So failing to get out of the room within. Now, we had set a timer for this. I believe it was 30 seconds. Failing to get out of the room within 30 seconds. 30 seconds or 5 rounds. Traps the character in the tomb. And at this point, they may well have finished their time with this particular skill challenge. Which does mean the party have to then figure out how to get them out of there if they make it out themselves. Which they probably will, because that's set up to be like I have figured it out. Alright, so that is our setback for that, or failure conditions. We're going to move down to the next one. So scenario 3. This is the dark room with the light beam trigger that activates a spiked wall. The characters have to navigate it as the roof is starting to collapse. There's a ticking clock for this, which we know about, they may not. So we need to put in a failure condition for that. Alright, so that is room 3. Room 3, failing condition. What are we dealing with? We're dealing with a spike trap, basically, swinging through and giving us a whole lot of problems. Okay. Failing. Okay. Characters that fail to navigate the spiked wall. And light beam successfully. Where is it? I believe I had set it out as No, that's not it. Okay, here we go. Failing to check the setback damage again. So I know in the movie it kills the person when it hits them, but we're not going to kill them. We're going to hurt them. We're not going to kill them. Characters that fail to navigate the spiked wall and light beam successfully take a setback worth of piercing damage. And we won't make it poisoned. Okay? Very, very simple. I don't believe that they're going to be being tied up in this location so they can't get through, because it's not set up like that. Like if you bolt it up, like that's one thing. Staying put would be a bad thing. We've already kind of said that they've got 12 seconds or 2 rounds to get clear of this, so they cannot stay still. That should be obvious what's going to happen if they stay still. Okay. Leads to the end. Hey all, just finished work. How's it going? Yeah, you could do that. That's certainly something you could add. All right, so this is the consequence for that stage. The 4th stage in our mammoth task here. the room 4. So this is the webs, the spiders, covered in large poisonous spiders that we've got to run through. So what is our consequence if we manage to balls this thing up? So down here, under consequence, we're going to type in the following. We're going to put in the, where is it? I believe it is the spiders bite them. Yep. Characters that fail to get past the spiders successfully take successfully have the spiders bite them, and receive the poisoned condition. We're not actually going to do any damage, we're just going to give them the poison condition. Okay? That's just a factor for that one. Now there's another thing here, is if they don't run, the boulder will hit them and that's it. Like, they're squished. They don't explain to them that they can't stay still. Okay? Don't run away from the murder boulder will be crushed. They have to go through the spiders in some way. They've got to figure out how to get through those spiders quick and successfully without getting bitten. So that's a very simple way of applying a consequence without applying damage. Now you might have been looking at some of the other stages and thinking, hang on, that one there does that so much damage and this one does this damage and da-da-da. Okay, but here we go. We're all right. We've only really had 3 lots of damage applied. We should be fine of an average doing like anywhere from 4 or less. So even the wizard is probably going to still be alive or unconscious but not dead. We still fall within our criteria. So the last step, the consequence here is a little odd. You might not have been expecting this, but failing to outrun the murder boulder results in the character being trapped in the cavern or tomb. So we're not actually trying to kill them, we're trying to trap them. It's a trap. Okay? Yes, they may they may die if they don't get out, but we're still giving them a chance. This is one of the things, like the ticking clock with anything. Well, actually, no. It should be, the first one would be about 4 or less. The next one is about 4 or less. The next one about 4 or less. So we're really looking at about 12 at the most, really, if I'm right, based on the damage by severity chart. That's for a level 1 character. But then again, you change that based on what you're dealing with, right? So that is the only outcome for this. This is our overall consequence. It's like, we need to get clear. Does that make sense? Does that give you sort of a rough idea? At like level 5, it would be different again. You would use the damage by severity again. Like, again, I told you and explained how you adjust this for yourself. Right, now, what sort of things can we do? Let's have a look at the different things that we were dealing with the first scenario. So, ceiling is collapsing. Got to get past all of these pressure plates really quickly. We've only got 18 seconds or 3 rounds to do so. So we need to navigate. So we need to push forward. We cannot stay put. Otherwise, we're going to get hit by stuff. And then eventually it's probably going to fall on us, the whole ceiling. So we don't want that to happen, right? So here are a few things that we can pluck in and plop into here in terms of individual dice rolls. The first one we've kind of already done, but there is another alternative, and that is a dexterity saving throw. Okay, so I'm going to put this in since it's a dice roll. Characters can try to avoid the flying darts as they dash across the room with a dexterity saving throw of DC, where is my DC? 15. Okay, so I have actually set quite a low DC for the saving throw. I left that to the last. I knew you guys would be freaking out about the 25 and the 20. Okay, but there's more to it than just that. To push through the webs. DC 12, to not be entangled. Yeah, look, again, you can adjust this. I don't usually use a lot of really low numbers. I tend to make, if the trap is in really a medium difficulty, then why the hell is it even there? Just get rid of it. So that a 12 is like way too low, even for level 1. Remember, damage by severity is how we adjust things. Okay, so there's some alternatives we could actually use for navigating this room, okay? We've done the acrobatics check, we've done the athletics check, we've got a dexterity check if we want to use that, we've got some numbers for that, you can make adjustments if you want, but there's a way of blocking the darts. You could use a shield. Here's an alternative. Let's put this in here right now. Okay. Characters with a shield can receive advantage on any D20 dice check to cross the room if they hold it to one side, and all damage is reduced by half. So it essentially means that only 1/2 of the incoming darts are likely to hit them. Okay, characters with a shield can receive advantage on a D20 dice check to cross the room if they hold it to one side, and all to half. So shield was one way. You may have already started to think, okay, he's just said the word mundane shield. That could be quite useful. We're not going to put 0 level characters through here. Those are commoners. They ain't going to work. Across the room. Okay. So we've got that one there. Then another one that I want to suggest to you is casting the shield spell. Sorry, shield. Did I get it? Shield spell. It's a big ask. Casting the shield spell reduces all the stops all the darts hitting a character as they cross the room. You're starting to get the idea of when I say alternatives and what we can do with them. Chip damage, yeah, kind of a little bit like that. I suppose that's very true. Yes, chip damage. So we have got the basics for our first scenario. Okay, we have got the consequences of group check. We're not worrying about group checks. We're dealing with only the consequences for the individual. Yep. What about crawling? Crawling is too slow. Like, crawling would be way too slow. You need to get across this room a lot faster. You've got stuff falling on you. Okay, if you want to put in crawling, by all means go for it, but I don't think it's going to work because it's way too slow. So I have given you all of the information. You can see it's almost a page just for the first step. Now, the reason it's so long is because this is a complicated trap, and two, because I'm covering as much stuff as I possibly can so you can see what's going on, right? I have set quite a tough time limit for them. They have to move quickly. All of the other stuff, I'm not going to have time to finish because I've got to go. So what I'm going to do is I will finish it up and I will put it onto Patreon. For those of you who are on Patreon, you can go and grab it from there. But remember, ability checks, saving throws, skill checks, using spells, all of that contributes to assisting you getting past the trap. You just have to remember, focus on the narrative. Make sure you have the ticking clock for the trap. Traps need ticking clocks. And then think of the consequences if they were to fail it that make sense, and then figure out what all sort of things they might do to be able to circumvent that, to get success and not fail. That's the easiest way to deal with all of that. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so for those of you who are on Patreon who are worried that I won't get this finished, don't worry. I'll get it finished. It'll happen. It's not going to not happen. It'll happen. So yeah, I'm going to say thank you to everybody who joined me today. I was hoping I was going to be able to get everything done, but this is obviously far more complicated. And as I was writing up all my notes before, I was like, okay, I'll be fine. But my typing speed is obviously not as good as it needs to be. That's given you the basics of it. I will therefore say, please join me again. We will be back again doing more of this sort of thing. World building, not just skill challenges. We will return to skill challenges. We'll do some easier ones in the future, something not as complicated as this. And for those of you who are curious as to what I wind up as in terms of a finished product, you're going to have to go to Patreon. Okay, that's where we're going to go. At least you can see the process. We've done run room. We've laid out the basic structure. It's there. So let me know how you are doing in terms of your skill challenge preparation. I would be very much interested in knowing how it's all going for you. So wherever you are in the world, like thanking my patrons, everybody who's been watching the live streams and the videos. But whether it's the morning, the afternoon, the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.